Yo, what's going on? So today, I'm not going to talk about a particular artist or album or song that I've worked on. I want to talk about Philly, and I want to talk a little bit about the history and the culture of jam sessions that I grew up in. We would get together and trade musical ideas. Again, I'd bring my limited skill set at the time and be like, here, what do you here? And somebody would bring their skill set at the time. And we become better for it because we'd learn, we trade ideas, we trade music. They teach me things I didn't know. I teach them things they didn't know. It was all a big community. And there's communities like that all over the world. So I'm not saying that Philly musicians are better or Philly did the jam sessions better. I'm not saying that. Shout out to my family that's worldwide. Houston, Dallas, New Orleans, Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis, New York, Atlanta, LA, Oakland, wherever you guys are. Y'all all part of my musical family, and I've learned so much from you also. But just to talk about, my Philly roots. We get together and again, like I said, we play some music, but it wasn't just musicians going for blood and just showing all of their chops. Yeah, there was some of that. But we would try and create musical moments, things that could potentially be a song. I remember one jam session at Rich Medina and Babito's sneaker store years back, where the band consisted of myself, Questlove, and Black Thought. Tariq coined the name for the band LSA. And we're playing, and again, we're coming off the top of our head. It was nothing pre-rehearsed, and just creating on stage. And we came up with this groove. Cool. So we remembered that and were like, yo, let's go to the studio and put this down. Put it down. And that actually turned out to be Don't See Us, which is on the Roots Things Fall Apart album. Uh, let's talk about Back to Basics at Silk City, where King Britt and Daz would spin this underground music that a lot of us didn't really know about. And he educated us on a lot of music that was underground and coming from overseas. So he'd be spinning, and the band would be on stage playing along with his records. And on the record would drop off, and the band would take the music somewhere else. Musicians on stage like Jafar Barron, Damon Bennett, Jeff Bradshaw, Tim Matza, Fanny, Kevin Arthur, Jermaine, Brian Fraser Moore on drums. And then legends like Drain Vidal on drums. It was just this big community of musicians that would come together and rock out, and Ursula Rucker on the mic, Lady Alma on the mic. And the audience loved it. They also loved the soul food buffet that was there, which was pretty banging. So, and then there were other jam sessions. I remember Sunday nights, and I grew up in the church, and a lot of other musicians grew up in the church. So Sunday nights after service, we go down to Touch a Jazz studio, with Jazzy Jazz studio, and be in the studio all night playing. I remember, I didn't meet him there, but I remember a 14-year-old Bilal singing a song, laying on the floor on his back and killing the song. Or let's talk about a spot called Wilhelmina's, where a lot of the same musicians and others would go there and rock out and create on stage again. Now, I may get in trouble by saying some of these names, by saying these names previously, and I may forget some of you guys' names. So I'm kind of washed. So forgive me if I don't mention your name. Let me get that out the way also. But I remember one night at Wilhelmina's, and there's probably like 20, 25 people in the audience there that night. But this particular night, and this is before they all had their albums out. It was Music Soul Child, Jill Scott. I remember Anthony Hamilton was there because me and Ant were friendly, and he would come down from New York and we would write songs together. Ant was there. I think Common was there, and the Roots, Amir and Tariq were there. Again, this was on one stage. We just jammed out one night, and 20, 25 people in the audience, which is pretty amazing. Let's talk about the jam sessions that used to happen on St. Albans Street at Questlove's house. So Amir had this house, which was the clubhouse. There was different producers that had rooms there. Chaos had a room there. Kilo had a room there. And Amir had a drum set up in the living room. And Scott Storch had his Rhodes set up in the living room. So everybody would come through. You know, there were MCs, poets, singers, other musicians. And we'd rock out. And it got so crowded that they had to move it to another location. It got so crowded that the owner of the house, Mr. Questlove Thompson himself, would go to his bedroom and call the cops on his own house, on his own party, to get everybody out of his house. He'll deny it, but Amir Thompson would call the cops on his own party. So they moved this party to a club called a Five Spot, and they catered it more towards the women, and it became the Black Lily, which was run by the Jazzy Fat Nasties. And the talent that was on that stage weekly, again, the Jazzy Fat Nasties, Jaguar Wright, Jasmine Sullivan, when she was, 14, 15 years old, Kindred, the Family Soul. So many great artists and so many great musicians came out of there. I remember meeting a young kid fresh out of Willingboro High School that was playing, and he might have been in his first few years of college, playing a 6-string bass and killing the bass, but playing every note on this bass way up high. And it was like, he's killing it. And he came into me and said, "Hey man, what's going on?" I said, "Man, you sound great. You sound great, Adam Blackstone. But when you gonna put that guitar down and finally play bass?" And I know Adam got a little upset at me for saying that. And I remember him saying he got so upset that he was like, "I'm gonna go back to my 4-string bass," and I continued killing it. And everybody knows who Adam Blackstone is right now. Young musicians like Omar Edwards there, who's now Rihanna and Jay-Z's musical director. Aaron Draper, who just finished touring with John Mayer and Adele and everybody else under the sun. And so, again, so many musicians. If I forget your name, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Then young drummers like Spanky McCurdy, and so many other young, great, phenomenal drummers that could play every musical note under the sun. And sometimes I have to say, that's cool. That's a whole lot of information that I have to process, which is cool. I like to think, but I like to dance. So while you're doing that, let's make me dance. Make everybody dance. There's a certain style that Philly had that we became known for, and there's a certain groove that we had, and we would teach each other and push each other in that direction. And it wasn't out of hate. It was all love, Again, I got plenty of advice from everybody. But again, the Black Lily became so popular. I remember Puffy coming down with his entourage all the time. I remember meeting Allen Iverson there. I remember Little John Roberts, who's from Philly but lived in Atlanta, was on tour with Janet Jackson. And after the show, he brought Janet and her entourage through. That's where I met Janet for the first time. So it was really, really great times. We would have jam sessions, just pop-up things. I remember being on tour with D'Angelo on the Voodoo tour, and we had to do a jam session right after that. Chauncey Childs organized a jam session right after that, and man, everybody showed up. D and Pino and everybody came on stage. I remember young John Stevens, who was at the University of Penn, performing. John Stevens, John Legend. So it was that kind of energy at all times. And you young guys who are in your headphones, just in your bedrooms, creating crazy beats, that's cool. Keep doing that. But go out and play some music. Go out and listen to somebody. And iron sharpens iron, so you can become better. And if there's jam sessions going on, keep it up. I may pop up. If it's like 7 to 9, if it's 12, might be a little too late for me. Hey, so again, if I forgot your name, or if you have a memory of some of these jam sessions, please add it to the comments. I'd love to read it, and I'm sure others would love to hear a little bit more of the history of my hometown, Philly.